Okay, so how do you think standardized testing affects your students?
I think standardized testing, in my experience as a student, as a teacher, is something that students don't feel motivated to do.
I think that standardized testing is an excellent way to measure student achievement and what students know and what they don't know in order for teachers to reteach what needs to be retaught.
Okay. And to expand on that question, do you think it would determine a student's intelligence or level of intelligence?
I don't think a test score determines a student's level of intelligence, but I do think that sometimes test scores determine abilities and can sometimes project where students can be. I don't necessarily think that that's the student as a whole.
So I look at it as more of a knowledge check than an intelligence check.
So, for going into a standpoint from more of a teacher's perspective, how do you think these forms of exams benefit you and your strategies when it comes to helping improve your students' abilities?
So that's where it gets back to what we were talking about on the very first question. Like if someone takes the test seriously and attempts to work on it, and you get a good knowledge check on what they understand and what they don't, then it can be a real useful tool as far as a teacher giving me feedback as far as where knowledge gaps exist in a student.
If the data is accurate, then yes, it does help teachers determine what they're going to teach, reteach, what they need to focus on the most, because it gives us information of what the students lack and what the students are strong in.
Yeah, no. Within the classroom, no. I don't think a test that I haven't created will actually assess every single individual in my classroom. I think on a certain extent, I could give everybody a blanket test and kind of know, all right, you're really strong in writing, you're really low in grammar, you have really strong comprehensive abilities, but it's not going to tell me what I need to do for student A, B, C, because one student has a special need and deficiency and the other student has a special strength and weakness. I can't look at a number and then all of a sudden know how to teach a student.
I think that standardized testing is one of many ways to measure a student's knowledge and to measure a student's achievement. And standardized testing, although I think that many educators and students will find different methods that they feel are most suitable to measure their achievement, standardized testing is definitely a method that works.
And does this type of testing effectively pull real results from students?
I think that there's always going to be that room for human error, but I think in general it does pull some effective data.
I'm not really sure how to answer that question, but when I think about that, I think there are numerous ways to pull information. Again, standardized testing is only one avenue. There are many different ways you can assess a student. You could ask the student, for example. You can have the student create a project. You can have students work together on something and present it. And a standardized test, again, it's only one measure. It is a very important measure. I am for standardized tests, but I do think there are other ways to assess students as well.
Now to go in to the aspect of the fact that some of these forms are digital. Do you think the digital form of standardized testing is easy to students? Would you prefer traditional testing? Or does digital standardized testing benefit students in any way possible?
Digital testing is probably the most modern form of testing. And digital testing, since it is most modern, I think it's most beneficial. However, I still think that some students would do better with a paper pencil test. And if a student would rather take a paper pencil test, I don't think that student should be denied the opportunity to do that. I think they should be tested how they feel would work best for them. But it's definitely, it's modern. Everyone uses technology, and it's a 21st century standard.
Well, I don't mean to completely pick your brain, but last question being, why do you think standardized testing is dependent on so heavily by Common Core curriculum?
Well, whenever you are taking taxpayer dollar, whenever you are working in a capacity that you are a community service member, you work in civil service, you are serving your community, there's accountability. And there's a standard, and you're supposed to teach your students what you're supposed to teach your students. And if you are failing in that area, there's really not a way to measure that failure. But if you have a standardized testing, you could say, okay, well, this district is doing well here. Here's where this district needs to improve. Should we be putting more funds here to help students who need more support in math or language? We know with standardized testing where we could best put our money and where to invest and where not to invest, because we do have a moral obligation to service our taxpayer who pay our paycheck every month.
Well, thank you, Miss, for all of your answers, and we'll take them into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. It was nice meeting with you.
From these interviews, I can conclude that standardized testing is a necessary exam. For most of these responses, it was said that this test is a good way to determine a student's strengths and weaknesses and to figure out how to improve a student's intellect, to better prepare them for the challenges that await them on the path they have chosen to success.